What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're back with more Destiny 2 and Shadowkeep news. So, we've got some game updates and changes coming next week, hidden festival triumphs and exotic rewards, upcoming challenges and Season Pass improvements, so some possible buffs to the drop rates of Season Pass weapons once you've acquired them. We'll talk about Eris's progression in the story, and we've got a few new interview segments and insights into future content, so we've got lots to talk about in the video. So the first thing to touch on in this video is that Bungie did deploy a few matchmaking changes for the Crucible, so they adjusted matchmaking settings for all of the playlists with the exception of Classic Mix to address some skill mismatches. And as always, they'll continue to monitor feedback and matchmaking data to improve on those systems, and so if you do experience any kind of differences with the matchmaking inside a Crucible, that'll be why. Something cool that I wanted to shout out right here is that Eris's appearance is slowly changing ever so slightly, so we can see that she is equipping the ornaments of the nightmares that we're helping her to collect on the moon. And this is actually the kind of appearance that Eris had in the first reveal trailer for Shadowkeep. We can see that Eris has Omar's knives right there, as well as Simota's necklace. I'm not sure if she's got Tolan's journal, but I think that's Veltalo's mark that she has around her wrist right there as well, so it's pretty cool that her appearance is slowly changing, and who knows, maybe these are the charms that'll help protect Eris against future nightmares, but of course this upcoming week, we will need to collect Ariana 3's letters, and so that should be a pretty cool final quest piece. I'm sure there'll be a conclusion of sorts in terms of the story, but for that quest we will need to search beneath the surface of the moon to reclaim treasure from Lost Hive and fallen lunar scavengers, and then use this solar subclass to defeat champions in any activity with a difficulty of hero or higher to actually collect the letter fragments. So we'll see what that means for the story element in the game, as well as any other potential secrets, because of course, at this point we will have banished all of Eris's nightmares. On top of this, on Tuesday, the dungeon will also kick off via Eris, who's going to give us the intel on the discovery beneath the lunar surface, so there will probably be some quest steps to actually gain access to the dungeon. And at the same time, Xenophage is going to launch into the game, and this one's a little bit more mysterious in that we don't actually know how it starts. Although Bungie have indicated that we will have a choice as to what we tackle first, so it seems that Xenophage as well as the dungeon is going to be available pretty much straight away. Now though, Bungie talk about some important game updates for Tuesday the 29th, so firstly, they've resolved an issue that prevented some veteran players from unlocking Black Armory forges and completing the mysterious box quest for Izanagi's Burden, so as of Tuesday that'll be fixed. They also fixed an issue that prevented players from abandoning that quest, a problem where the Exodus Black destination quest couldn't be recovered if abandoned. They've got a fix for the Iron Banner Triumph Silamar's design, and that wasn't unlocking for some players, but it will retroactively unlock for eligible players. They resolved an issue causing daily bounties from Eris Morn and the Lectern to actually rotate weekly, and a problem that increased load times for previewing gear while traveling between destinations. So those will be some useful updates that we'll get on Tuesday, and of course I'll keep you posted with full patch notes when they become available. Now though, we have a quick update for Festival of the Lost for this year. And firstly, Cosmo said that all of the new Festival of the Lost Eververse items will be available for Bright Dust at some point during the event. And so all of the new stuff that Bungie previewed a few days ago will be featured for Bright Dust, and that's definitely worth bearing in mind, and also keeping your eye on the store for when that stuff shows up. Cosmo did also confirm that a few of the items from Year 1 will show up for Silver, so of course if you've already played in Year 1 then you probably won't be worrying about that too much. There are, however, 10 exclusive triumphs for Festival this year, and we can see that one of them on the Bungie help page is actually redacted right there. And so we already have a secret triumph, and I wonder exactly what that will hold. Last year we did indeed get an exotic quest for Festival, and so it could potentially be something like that. Also though, in the past they have featured exotic weapons and exotic catalysts and things like that, so you never know, we could get something like that, and there are even brand new catalysts in the game that could potentially drop for players. Also, as we mentioned the other day, Jesse Hall from Bungie did post a high poly render of the No Time to Explain, and so considering this is a D2 version of that weapon under some kind of development, you never know, it could be a thing in the future. A couple of quick warnings for loot though. Bungie note that Festival of the Lost candy and Chocolate Strange coins do not dismantle individually, so in the event that players choose to dismantle these items, their entire stacks will be deleted. Probably worth avoiding that one. And also, if you unlock any festival triumphs, be sure to actually claim them before the festival goes away on November 19th, because otherwise, even if you've completed them, the ability to actually claim them will also go away with the event. Now though, let's move on to the subject of future updates and content in the game. And initially, on the subject of the Season Pass, a lot of folks have been speaking about the weapons that you unlock, and their ability to drop again in the game to get random rolls and things like that. DMG said that the team is aware of the chatter on drop rates for the Season Pass weapons. They are looking at potential changes before the end of this season, and they say that if we don't get a change this season, the learnings from this Season Pass will be applied to the next season. So essentially they're going to update some of the loot that we get there to actually be able to drop more randomly once it's acquired, as we hunt for those god rolls and things like that. There have been a few different interviews with Victoria Dolbaum from Bungie, and this week we get another one with PC Gamer, and they ask, in Year 3, how is Bungie intending to absorb the loss of the work from Vicarious Visions and High Moon Studios, given that those studios contributed large chunks of content in Year 2? Victoria said that I think we're planning further out for the things that we want to happen, and then making sure that each team is staffed appropriately to do those things. However, we also tend to know that our eyes are bigger than our stomachs, and we have a very high bar for what we do, so we know that it's better to do a few things at a very high bar than it is to do a ton of things and have them not be very well received by the community. So while you may see us do a little bit less, that means we're trying to do the high quality version of what we're doing. And that's going to be the really interesting thing moving into Year 3 seasons, right? Bungie vindicated that maybe we're going to get a little bit less content, and Victoria's totally kind of reinforcing that idea here, but Bungie's perspective is that they really want to keep that quality threshold for the content pretty high. My personal curiosity is what Season 9 will actually look like in the game. Of course, the seasonal content for Undying is definitely not as expansive as what we saw in Season of Opulence, right, as a standalone season, but this time around we also got Shadowkeep, and so this is probably the second biggest single drop of content that we've had in D2. However, once we don't have Shadowkeep alongside that, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Season 9 will actually be like. Let us know your thoughts on the potential of a little bit less content as we go through Year 3. They also ask a question about Xur and why he only sells the same roles on exotics that are found in collections. And firstly, Bungie have separately said that that's actually an issue they're looking into and it isn't intentional. And so Xur could maybe become a little bit more relevant in terms of the stats and affinities for the gear that he's getting, but Victoria does say that Xur isn't necessarily as relevant for the bleeding edge players who have everything in the game and are looking for special roles and things like that. In the future, at some point it could be that Xur is repurposed, but it really depends whether they see a need for a change to that vendor in the game. So Bungie definitely sees Xur as a bit of a catch-up vendor for new light players and things like that. And as always, I'd love to see Xur continue to be relevant in the game, so hopefully there will be a few things they can do in the future to actually keep him relevant. Separate to this though, Victoria did kind of indicate an interest in potentially building sort of mini arcade games inside of Destiny. And this was in response to a question about Sparrow Racing League. And she threw around ideas like riding big sparrows, motorcycle rides and races against friends and things like that. And so who knows, maybe Bungie do have a bit of a trick up their sleeve with a similar piece of content as something like Sparrow Racing League in the future. Definitely a curious idea. Let us know what you think about it down below. Now, on the subject of seasonal stuff, something to think about with Season 8 right now. Of course, Bungie mentioned that the title Undying is going to be going away because so is the Vex offensive activity. And Cypher Demon on Reddit very kindly pointed out that of course that will also mean we can no longer acquire weapons like Optative, Subjunctive, Imperative, and Adortative, which drop from that Vex offensive mode. So definitely bear in mind if you want those weapons, you'll want to get access to them before the end of the season because the activity associated is actually going away. Bungie have indicated that weapons that players really want to see can come back in the future with different drop sources, so in a couple of seasons' time, we might see these weapons return but drop from a different place, right? Once again, it's definitely an interesting element of this seasonal content rollout that Bungie are doing. Not sure if this is a known issue on Bungie's side, but folks are also pointing out that if you buy the Season Pass without Shadowkeep for Season 8, it's actually not possible to obtain the seasonal title because you have to get a full set of Dreambane armor from the moon. It's certainly interesting, and I think it might potentially be a design mistake right there, and hopefully if that is the case, then Bungie could look to adjust it before the end of the season. Let's mention a few interesting things in the database. Firstly, there are some exotic vehicles right here. They're not listed with reward sources in the game at the moment. According to the database, they also aren't currently linked with Eververse or any upcoming events, so just some interesting items. We've got the Cuttlebone. We do have some flavor text there from Pahanin, but there is also the Arbitrage Ship, the Nephilim Toaster, and the Magneton Trust. Some of them share pretty similar color schemes there, so obviously items we'll gain access to at some point, maybe through gameplay, but of course most likely through Eververse or some kind of event. Quick shout right here, if you're playing the raid quite a bit, we are going to be getting the first raid challenge on the 5th of November, and if you haven't checked these out in the database already, there will actually be 4 separate challenges. So there is the Staying Alive challenge, the A Link to the Chain challenge, a challenge called To the Top, and then the 0 to 100 challenge. And it kind of looks like these are going to work in a similar way to all of the other raid challenges we've seen over the past year or so, where you have a raid bounty from Hawthorne and stuff like that. So that's a quick shout if you're working on that raid content. Now though, something interesting to point out here is that Chris Barrett, according to his Twitter bio, is working on something secretive at Bungie. So we can see he's updated that bio to soon TM at Bungie. And this is pretty interesting because Chris Barrett has been very influential when it comes to Destiny 2 content, but Bungie are working on future projects. They have a trademark for a project called Matter, and this was filed at the same time that they had a pretty huge investment from a company called NetEase. And so a lot of people are predicting that that's going to be some kind of mobile game. And so maybe that's something he's working on, but potentially it could be a new Destiny project. It's interesting that it says soon. I mean, I don't know if that's literal, like something that's going to happen, in the next year. As far as Destiny content goes, though, it's an interesting one because I wouldn't imagine Chris Barrett would kind of be the lead for a single seasonal drop of content in Destiny 2. Of course, that may be the case. And at the moment, we don't know of any other kind of big Destiny projects that are going to be happening immediately in the next few months. So yeah, definitely wonder what's going on there. However, Pete Parsons from Bungie has suggested recently that Bungie are looking to launch a non-Destiny franchise by 2025. And so I'm really curious to get an idea of exactly what that's going to look like. And so share any of your thoughts about it down below. You never know, Bungie could be working on a D3. And that's something else that has been spoken about a little bit once again in the past week or so. As always, I would love to hear your thoughts below, guys. But for today, thank you as always for tuning in. If you've enjoyed the video, a rating is very much appreciated. I'll keep you posted next week with the launch of that dungeon, the exotic quest, the loots, the secrets, and pretty much anything else that you could want to know about that drop when it happens. So stay tuned around here. You can also catch up with the Destiny Community Podcast episode that I was on the other day. Once again, thank you so much to those guys for having me on the show. And to Ash, as always, who did an amazing job on the artwork for that episode. I really love that. I'll link it below if you want to check it out. But for now, guys, thank you for tuning in. And whatever you get up to, I hope you have an awesome day.